Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at this neat little airplane that Microsoft dropped on us, the Piper Dakota. Now this is an odd combination of airplanes. It's almost like the Piper people said, you know what's cool? The Warrior. You know what's cool? The Archer. You know what's really cool? If we take those airplanes and we decide to make it a 240 horsepower, well 235 for this version, and make it constant speed and add all those other fun little features, almost like a Cessna 182. And this is the product that you got for it. This is a neat plane. It has a lot of kind of the Piper quirks. I've flown a lot of time in a Piper. I was literally flying in the Piper Archer 3 the other day in the real world. So it's kind of neat to see sort of the similarities and the differences with this airplane. And what we hope to do today is kind of give you sort of the basics of this plane. And like I said, it's neat. And there's a lot of nice stuff to it. So what we do in the real world, of course, is if we were kicking this party off, other than, as I normally mentioned, dropping your bag off on the floor, usually take about 10 minutes with your keys to try to get the little baggage compartment open here. And that opened up right away. You'd have a bunch of junk back here, and of course, you'd be fiddling with the junk. I love the fact they had the little tow bar here. Fun fact about tow bars is pulling a plane is a lot harder than it looks, kind of a thing like that. But you jam all your stuff in there, you climb up on the wing, you go ahead and hit the handle and sort of step over. Do not step on the seats. Those seats are very, very expensive to replace. So again, you'd climb on inside like that. You know, you do one of these things, you get all your regular buttons and everything all squared away. Check your basic stuff. You'd be hitting the flaps here. So when you climb out, everything is good to test. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll do a basic walkthrough here. One of the nice things about the Piper over the Cessna is these are nice and sealed. And one of the things you do, of course, is you'd sit here and you have to basically crouch underneath it. You'd have to check to make sure everything's okay. One of the cool details that we can't see here is right in here. There's actually a little wire that holds the aileron off if something bad happens. It's like, well, I can't control the plane, but at least I have the aileron dangling off the side. Just kind of one of those things. Pop in the chocks. You can see we have no wheel pants on this particular version, and you can see we're about realistic. That's about how far the wheel actually sinks when you look at it. You come over here, you double check to make sure your lights are looking okay, worked on the front. One of the things we don't have on this side, of course, is we don't have any of the good stuff as far as little stall horns and stuff like that. We'd pop this sucker open, and what you would do is you'd actually come in here and you'd have a little stick, and you'd stick the stick in here, kind of hold it with your thumb, lift it up, and you could see that you'd have fuel on it. Normally we go to tabs. Speaking of tabs, let's put it to tabs. Tabs is simply this little piece of metal that's in here, and what you would do with it is you'd basically fill it up to that point. Basically, this is essentially tabs here. We got 18 and 18. That's 36. 35 gallons is tabs. So you can see it's roughly half a tank, so it makes it pretty easy for that particular purpose there. So we'd seal that up. It's very stinky, by the way, when you open that sucker. Come down here. There's a little air vent right here, and you're supposed to make sure nothing's kind of decided to live inside of it. Very, very important. Come up the front. We check this. We've used quite a bit of wheel here. You can tell our shock is not as long. It has to be a certain length. One of the things you would see here is this would all be scorched and nasty underneath here. There's always a jerk in a forklift every time. We'd pop the cowling and we take a look at the engine itself just to make sure there's nothing like dangling from it. Pull these out. This is actually very sloppy. One of the things you'll notice here is they have this little kind of cover on the bottom here. The Piper iFly would not have this cover because it doesn't have this intake. But you always want to make sure your rope is across the top of the propeller blade because if you did forget to pull these out, it would basically grab them and whip them over there somewhere, which would be, I don't know, kind of amusing, except for you. Go down, we check our propeller to make sure it's not too nicked or destroyed. Notice, even though we're 235 horsepower here, that we do indeed have basically a two-blader, which is kind of surprising. Come up here, of course, I pop the cap here, and we go ahead and check the oil. As if I could read that oil. I can press the examine button, and it says new. And unfortunately, you're supposed to read this. Again, we're going for about 7 or so. Back in there. So, kind of a thing like that. Continue our little journey across the front. This is where you could check the fuel at the lowest point of the aircraft. This is one of those that everybody misses, so don't forget that there is this one here. Just make sure you close it before you... Is there a reason I'm over here now? I just want to make sure you close it up before you're done with it, kind of a thing like that. The next thing we would be doing is we make our way down this wing, just kind of inspecting again. We have a little stall arm here. If you have like a passenger or something like that, you can have them basically hit the battery. If you're alone on your own, you have to hit the battery, run all the way out here, go bzz, 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 and run back inside and then shut the battery off so you don't kill your battery. We take a look at this tire over on this side, make sure it's good. Take a look at the vent on this side, make sure it's good, which it is. Swing around over on this side. Now you can see we've got a little light. It's secure. We'd go ahead and double check this aileron too. Like I said, you got that little wire right there. That's theoretical. This little hatch right here, this little guy right here is basically going to be for your protecting for your pitot and your static system here. And we're just going to pop its little happy cap off, kind of a thing like that, just like that. If you forget that, you're going to have no airspeed. We go ahead and grab the flaps and go bang, 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 a couple times. Looking along the side. Check this out. Autopilot only. Oh, just a static vent. A lot of times if you do have an autopilot, you have a separate static port back here. Come swing back here, and you can see everything else is looking darn good. This is a stabilator, by the way, which is really cool because when you lift this, if you look really carefully, do you notice how the trim tab appears to be sticking upwards? That's correct, because it's not a trim tab. It's an anti-servo tab. And you give that a couple bangs, basically. We don't touch the rudder, but basically even it says right on the side, don't touch the rudder kind of a thing. Static wicks would look okay. We'd slide here. I like to tap the antennas gently, just to make sure they're not going to fall off. Because if I tap them and they fall off, we got bigger problems. Coming on this side, you can see we've got a little external power. Be very, very, very careful with external power that you get the right voltage. You'd step up. I've known many, many people who've hurt themselves badly on these kinds of airplanes with this step. So you'd step that, swing in, you go shrimp, and basically land in your little seat here, just like that. With that all taken care of, we kind of get everything ready. Fun thing here is I love the fact they put the power settings right on the visor. The one I fly, again, I don't fly this version. I fly the Archer 3. I would not have all that stuff on it. It would actually, we don't even have a sun visor in that plane. Also, these seats are really nice. Like I can't tell you how tight it is, but like if you look down here where you're supposed to put your feet, you realize, are you kidding me as far as comfort here? But I do appreciate the fact it's got this. One thing that I have in the Piper that I fly that's a little bit different is we have the nice electric fan. We can push a button, and there's actually this little vents right above your head here, and it's really nice. Like I said, nice little detail that they added in the 90s versions of the Piper. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. You can see this yoke. This yoke is unrealistic because it's straight. I know that sounds funny, but these planes are so old that like when you get in the plane, it would be like this a little bit, and this would be straight, but don't worry about it too much. Go ahead and get rid of this. One neat detail that you can't see here that they didn't quite get right, but again, nobody cares, is the fact that this doesn't actually go straight. It actually goes up. So if you want to imagine, it goes like this kind of a thing on a little curve, only on account of the fact that, like I said, it's not an even thing. It's just not the way that works. Also, we can't rip it off like that in the real world. So what we do is we climb in here. We go do the fuel tanks. Fuel tanks in the Piper are real easy. You just run up here, take a look at what time it is. We're using a left tank. If you said, where did you get that from? If you look at the minute hand, we're pointing to the left side. If it was a positive, like I said, this would be a right positive. You know what I mean? So we got the left tank. Everything's squared away. Headphones were all plugged in. Everything's good to go. I love how they hide the electric pitch trim switch here. And that's one of those things where if you forget it, don't be surprised if things don't work the way you expect to later on. You'll know what I mean, kind of a deal. So getting this thing started is a snap. This is an older version of the Piper, not the newer one. So it's a little bit different as far as startup goes, but like I said, it's still pretty easy. We're going to crack the throttle. You can tell newbies from experts here. An expert would definitely never do this. There's just no mechanical reason why you do that, especially with a carburetor. When I say crack the throttle, I mean crack the throttle. You can see this thing's at 5%. That's plenty. In flight sim, it doesn't matter. In the real world, it depends on the day. There's actually some really goofy things you can do with the throttle if your engine's really warm. Not going to tell you those because they're, like I said, not recommended. All right, let's take a look here. So we're good to go. We have fuel. We have the mixture set. We've got this one set. We prime it a little bit. This one's got the old-fashioned primer. Basically, you crank it like that. And again, 3 clicks of primer is way more than enough. We make sure our parking brake is set. What they don't tell you about this parking brake in the sim is it actually sets the pedals. It's actually pretty cool. This one's a really easy-to-use parking brake compared to like a 182. On a 182, you will jump the parking brake. Like if you give it enough power during your run-up and you don't stand on the brakes, this plane will start rolling across the runway. Like it's obnoxious. Whereas this thing, if you set that, you're not going anywhere. Big difference. All right, we're going to let everybody around us know that we're about to get started. I love how worn out this switch is. That makes me feel so good, just how beat up that darn thing is. Love it. So that's all set there. Anti-collision height, lights, everything is ready to rock. We are ready to begin our performance here. So performance is very, very simple. It's just a matter of sort of letting people around you know that you're going to get started. We'd open up this window. You want to see a big difference between this and the Archer? This one right here. Do not open it above 120. That's a nice little detail that they gave you there. So we stick our head out here and go, clear prop, and let everybody know we're about to get started. You be quiet. Kind of look around for a second. Everything's good. And now we're ready. So now we're going to go ahead and power up the master switch there. We can see we've already hit that one earlier. Again, you've got that ready to go. We'd sit there and crank it. Click, 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 and stand by. Man, this thing starts nice. Gosh, this thing starts great. Yeah, the real Piper for about 5 minutes, and it wouldn't start. Then you have to reprime it. All right, engine is started. We're looking pretty good. Avionics is going to come on, which is this switch right here. We're also going to turn on electric pitch trim. We're going to hit that switch there. And then we're going to take our mixture handle and we're going to put it to half. in before I forget to fix that when I get down to the end runway there. Bad enough I left the battery on. Again, there's lights and stuff that you can see in the real world that makes it more obvious. Quick little light test. Everything's working there. All right, we are good to go. We're going to be taking a pretty short journey with this plane today, just for the purposes of kind of demonstrating. I'm going to get a couple things sort of set up. This is real world weather, and you can see that the sky is nasty. It's, like I said, not an optimum situation here, but that's okay. Like I said, just demonstrating everything. 2,000 feet, we can go ahead and arm that. We've got a yaw damper. Please don't take off and land with the yaw damper. It will battle you. It will do the big battle. But one thing we do want to do in the real world is we actually have to come in here and manually add in how much fuel we have. You can see we've got 35 gallons, right on tabs kind of a thing. But none of the rest of this works well. I don't know why, but like I said, the endurance is 0. Like I said, they gotta fix that. This is a really, really useful instrument, and I think that's kind of cool here. So we've got 2,000 feet armed. Everything's all set. We've got GPS. Again, it's not going to capture it or anything like that. So what you would do now, of course, is you'd call up a Brainerd Tower if you're doing flight following, let them know that you're doing flight following. But as I mentioned, the weather is awful today, so it's going to make this incredibly, incredibly challenging. All right, so let's go ahead and pop down the flaps there. I'm going to go ahead and release the parking brake, and we're just going to get going. It takes very little to get this plane moving. One of the things I like and I don't like about this plane is the fact that in the real world, when you deal with constant speed propellers, there is definitely a delay when the propeller governor basically catches the RPM of the engine. The delay is not long. So if I were to slam on the throttle, hear how it very, very lazily, again, that's a technical term for spooling up slowly. That very, 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 very lazy. Propeller engines just don't do that. And I don't know why developers think that they need to smooth that out. And again, there are some that do, especially if you're a big, big, big radial turbocharged something or other. But the reality is they're extremely responsive. All right, so the run-up on a Piper is very easy. Again, like I said, the brake is good. This is not a 182. You're not going to start hopping across the ground there. Nothing bad will happen to that effect. So what we'll do here is we'll go ahead and get everything all squared away for that. So we're going to do 2,000 RPM, do our mags check, do our propeller check. All right, let's do it. Mixture rich. We're going to be on the fullest tank, which is technically the other tank, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it too much. So we're going to pop this thing up to 2,000 revolutions per minute, comrades. That looks good. Oh, too much. And again, with the constant speed prop, this gets a little more fun. So it's doing its happy dance. It's so realistic. All right, so a couple different things we want to check here. We're going to make sure everything's in the green, which it is. Everything's in the green. Go ahead and exercise a little fuel pump here. You can see we get a little kick there. We can see it comes back down, which is good. We'll exercise our magnetos. Again, it shouldn't be that much of a drop. Wow, that was a really big drop. Actually, we can't fly this plane. That drop is too high. Yeah, it's only supposed to be 75, not 200. So we got to look into that. That's problematic. All right, let's check the other magneto here. But at least the drop between the two isn't very much. Yikes. That's a lot. That's a lot of drop, but that's okay. So then we're going to exercise this. When you do that in the real world, it makes this wisp noise, which sounds like an angry weed whacker. It's actually pretty fun. And I notice if I pull this back as hard as I can, do you see how slow it responds? Again, this is the developers trying to decide for you what is the best thing for your airplane. All right, that's good. We're going to go ahead and hit the carburetor heat. We should lose... Oh, guess we didn't. Carburetor heat not working today? Okay, not going to worry about it. Go ahead and pull the throttle all the way to 0, and everything should just kind of spiral itself back down and slow down, get nice and quiet on us. I just want to confirm I'm not being stupid here. No, I was right. I was right. All right, let's go ahead and give that a tap. And now we are ready for takeoff. Now, this is a heavier version than an Archer. Now, a regular Archer, of course, is going to be a little more, a little lighter. Like I said, not just weight-wise, but just about everything is going to be a little bit lighter. But this thing also has more power. And the big way that it shows in Pipers, it's not that you go faster. It's that your aircraft, basically, if you want to think about it another way, it's that your climb rate is improved. And this thing climbs like a rocket. And I'm very impressed with it. That's one of the things I actually think is pretty cool about it. Go ahead and get some brake. If I've learned anything, it's that runway behind you is worthless, especially if you're flying something called the Beechcraft Starship. There we go. Got ourselves nice and lined up. All right, let's dial in our destination. We're going to have to earn it today. So again, we're going to do a super short flight today. Whoa, that could be fun too. We'll go ahead and do that one. Press enter, enter. That looks good to me. That looks good to me. I love it. We'll go ahead and do an approach too. Make it fun for us. RNAV for 27. Sounds good to me. And we'll do it via hot. Again, hot's kind of a good choice there. Hot links. Yeah, we'll do hot today. And we'll activate that approach. We'll go ahead and close out our flight plan. All right. That looks good to me. They've changed the default on this. I don't know why they felt the need to do it, but it's all good for me. All right. Takeoff on this thing. We want to be a little bit careful with takeoff on this because it happens quick. We're definitely an overpowered warrior, basically, like that. So I'm going to go ahead and release that. So we're going to give it about half power, about 20 inches. And you're just going to be making sure the propeller governor catches. And you can see it right there at 2,500 RPM. And now we're going to apply the rest of the full power. This thing will slam you back in your seat. And you can see there that we are moving today. I'm going to go ahead and put this a little bit to the right. Go ahead and get rid of that. Fantastic. You can see I'm compensating for that little bit of crosswind. And we're good to go. So give it a tug. It's going to kapoing and fly up in the air like you would not believe. Effortlessly. Like I said, just effortlessly. You can see I'm already doing 80 knots. If this were a regular Piper, we'd be going a lot slower. So we're going to hold at 80 knots. This is a pretty comfortable speed until we get at least 600 feet underneath us here. Like I say, we want to get a little tiny bit of room before we start maneuvering. And we are going to be in IFR conditions in a few seconds, or IMC. Really, they're both the same there. I'm not worried about it too much there. All right, and next thing we're going to do is, because we are constant speed, is we're actually going to reduce our RPM a little bit. You can see right now I'm chilling at 2,500, so I'm actually just going to gently pull this back. You can see the way they engineered this thing is by reducing that RPM a little bit. Basically, it keeps everything in the continuous range. All right, we're going to go ahead and enjoy a nice gentle turn to the left here. We're going to start making our way towards our destination. Now you can see with that little bit of RPM reduction that it really makes a big difference as far as performance goes, and the thing immediately starts slowing down. But like I say, keep it right around 80 seems to be kind of optimum. You can definitely go a little bit quicker if you want to do like a 90 knot climb. It will definitely do it. You've got plenty of horsepower in this thing. And again, if you want to do like kind of your VY, which is going to get you maximum altitude, you can go as much as basically 75 knots, and that'll get you going up pretty darn fast. All right, we're just going to come spin around here, and this is going to be one of the new fun features of the Piper here. And one of the things I like about Pipers is they're very stiff. It's not a bad thing. Like I said, when I started flying, I flew with Cessna 172s, which, again, I love the planes. I'd take one over the Piper for different reasons. It's just because it's what I'm used to. But the big thing I learned with them is they're very, very hard controls. Like, it's a hard ride. Not quite Mooney, where it's extremely stiff controls, but at the same token, it's definitely not like rubbery. It's the best way to rubber bandy. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the best way to describe what it's like on a Cessna, especially at different types. So it's just a little bit left of east there. It's going to be a little bit, basically about there. And if I wanted to confirm that too, I could just come up here to the MSG button. It's not going to tell me. Desired track is 96. No, yeah, 96 is our desired track. So let's get that in correctly. That's 96. 96. If you're curious, by the way, I'm not touching this because you don't need to. You can just push the right foot forward. Any of the overpowered archers or any of the overpowered warriors or any of those airplanes, it's just a rudder plane. Yeah, I remember, again, flying the other day, just how much effort it was to basically keep the thing centered as far as the ball goes on a climb. Like, this is being generous to me, how much work it is to keep this thing up. All right, we're going to go ahead and tap the automatic pilot there. We're getting to about 3,000 feet. Remember, original desired altitude was 2,000 there, but that's okay. And we're just going to let the aircraft kind of settle at about 3. So what I'm going to do is let it climb up a little more. And I'm just going to mash the alt button once I get there. There we go. The aircraft should level itself off. We'll pop on the nav hold, and now we're pretty good to go ahead and get everything set up. Autopilots, by the way, in these aircraft, very, very easy to use. They're not designed for anything fancy. But now you're going to see the majesty that is this airplane versus a Warrior or something. Look at how fast this thing builds up speed. I'm doing $1.25, and my ground speed is 140 already. This thing is just going and going and going and going. So we're going to go ahead and get our cruise power set up. This is very much a 24-24 airplane. So what I'm going to do is reduce my power. We've already reduced our RPM to make ourselves a little bit easier. So that's going to be about 24, and that's going to be about 24. And that's going to slow it down very, very nice and neatly for us. We're going to start picking up speed, as you can see very clearly, and we're doing 147, which is amazing. But again, all that extra horsepower matters. Now, if we want to be a little more careful here, we can actually pull this down and take a look at our settings here. So let's see here. We're about, what did I say, about 2,000 feet. If we wanted to get basically 85 is our max rated here, about 200 horsepower. As you can see, let's see, 24 and 22 looks pretty good. I'm trying to take a look. Here's my 24 and 25, if that's something you want to do too. 24, let's see, 24, 24, and 20. There's 24 and 24 at 22. So 22 and 24 would give it to us. That's not bad. Go down to 20, and again, you can see this thing is amazing, just how much performance you can get out of it. So 24, 25 will give us about 85. So my current setting is basically between these two, like 70% rated power, which again, because it is in the green, we're okay kind of a thing. Please do not put your visor this way. It'll decapitate you if you hit something wrong. No, that'll be pretty good there. And you can see we are just ripping along here, just like that. Fuel pump would come off after we, of course, get up to altitude. Like I said, I'm not too worried about it. And we are, like I said, in semi-IMC here. This is basically the actual weather today. We're going to come ripping over this way towards our destination. Okay, so we're going to take a look at the mixture next. The mixture in this one, unfortunately, is old school. We have to use our EGT gauge here. Easiest way to do this is I take this knob, and normally in the real world, what you would do is you kind of set it to wherever you are now, and you're just trying to get this to peak. So I'm going to grab my little mixture handle here. I'm going to pull it back just a little bit. You're not going to notice anything if this is, depending on the way they model this aircraft. There it goes. So you'll notice here I've got it about halfway back. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my little needle. I'm going to adjust it to the new position. Pull it back a little bit. Pull it back a little bit. Oh, too far. So do you notice how it kind of peaked here? Yeah, right there. So right in this current position here, I'm about 40% mixture, and you can see that I'm absolutely peaked as far as the performance goes. So we got to go on the left side of peak here, which basically means a little rich. So I'm going to go ahead and tap this a few times, and we're just going to get it right to about there. Now you can see that's just a little bit to the left. In the real world, at altitudes like this, you're not going to get a lot of change unless you really, really crank on it. But the important thing here is you'll notice that I'm, like I said, about 50% mixture here. And if I were to come down here and I take a look at this, you can see my fuel flow is about 11.7 gallons per hour, which is awesome. If I didn't lean the mixture and I go ahead and push that all the way forward, you can see I'm burning 14 gallons per hour, and I'm getting absolutely zero benefit out of it. So that just gives you an idea of just how valuable it is if you're trying to save that fuel. And again, we can go a little bit leaner in the flight sim than we can in the real world, but that's okay for our particular purposes there. Excellent. So we've got about 9 minutes to go to get to hot. More like 1 minute, am I right? So now we're going to get ready for instrument landing here. And like I said, the conditions aren't terrible today. It's just a matter of it. A couple little housekeeping things we need to do with this plane. So one of the things you probably noticed is the fact that with this plane, we can only do left tank, right tank. And of course, we probably want to make sure we're on the more full tank for our approach. So coming to look here, we're down to 15 gallons on the left, and you can see we have 20. So we've gone to about 5 gallons-ish. About 3.15. I just can't read that needle very well. So we're actually going to pop over to the right fuel tank. To do that correctly, by the way, you want to hit your fuel pump, hop to the tank, wait about 30 seconds, and then shut the fuel pump back off, just in the event that you need a little extra pressure. So the cool thing here is we got ourselves a nice little course reversal here, procedure turn if you want to. It's telling us we need to hold parallel. It's also going to give me a heads up saying approaching VNAV profile, kind of a piece like that. So the cool thing here, with that all taken care of, we can go ahead and actually begin our descent. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to set my original altitude of 2,000 feet, which is going to be a little bit below us. I'm going to press the vertical speed button. I'm going to press it down a few times and set up about 500 feet per minute. You absolutely want to make sure this is armed. Again, that's what they say, armed, kind of thing like that. So what aircraft is going to do is going to begin our little descent, kind of getting us ready for this particular flight here. And a lot of it, like I said, is all about just kind of cleaning things up a little bit. So one thing we do want to do is we want to make sure our mixture is in a good condition. We're going to be hitting some clouds in a second. It is a nice hot summer day, so I'm not too concerned with it. What's going to happen here is aircraft is going to do this whole power donut, something like that. And then we can go ahead and get ready for the approach. Boop. Good to go. So in about 270, we're just going to make sure our heading is all preset here and make sure, like I said, looks pretty good for us. And again, I love aircraft like this because even though they don't look very automated, they're extremely capable as far as getting the job done, even though they're not maybe as fancy as some of the other aircraft that maybe you've seen in the past, kind of a thing like that. All right, so we take our nice little general turn here, and you can see we've got ourselves all lined up onto final. It's going to try to hold that. What we're going to do is we're going to tell it that we're done with that. And you can see we've got LV nav here. We got lateral as well as vertical navigation. And now we're basically ready to go for the actual RNAV approach here, which is kind of cool. So we've got 5 minutes to go to Lynx. Lynx is going to be our final approach fix here. And the incredible thing, I can't get over this approach, though. It basically took us into Rhode Island to get to Eastern Connecticut. It's just kind of one of those things here. And you can see we're kind of settling out just a little bit. All right, and interestingly enough, that's interesting. That's interesting. If you take a look here, we can see that our lovely tool here is way out of whack. As a matter of fact, you can see my actual heading is a 268, and you can see over here it shows that I'm doing northeast, which is fascinating. I don't know what the deal with that is. That's kind of bothersome. So unfortunately, that is in-op at this particular time, which would make it very, very interesting for us to do any sort of approaches. But again, that's part of the fun. One of the things I've seen people do in emergency like this is you can do something like that. Theoretically, it'll still show you accurately because of the nature of the RNAV approach. We'll get a little closer. All right, riding into final approach now. We're just crossed links. We're heading down a Huvix, kind of a thing like that. The cool thing here is, as you can see, we've got ourselves in a very, very gentle descent because we are on approach hold mode. One of the cool things with this particular approach here is we can go visual at any time because I can actually see runway 27 basically just sitting there hanging out. So we'll go ahead and get everything ready for our little landing here. I'll just pop a couple switches just in case something goes wrong. We'll confirm that we're on our fullest tank. If we take a look here, the left tank's says 15, right tank is about 16. So again, we'll go ahead and leave that tank on. In real world, these gauges can vary as far as quality goes, as far as being able to see things. Obviously, our gyro is completely in-op here. That's going to make it very interesting for an instrument approach. But like I said, we're kind of lucky today because we have this. Another thing I find very fascinating is when you come down here, you can see the fact that our aircraft is represented as basically not facing the right direction. This is interesting stuff. I always like it when things break because it just, makes it more fun. It's also kind of realistic in its own sort of way. All right, that's good to go. We can go ahead and clear that out. And you can see that it thinks we're facing north, even though the main GPS is doing a wonderful job here. All right, let's talk about landing. This aircraft does not have retractable landing gear. This is not a Piper Arrow. That means this thing will slow down very quickly on you. You can see our approach is going perfect. Like I said, we're doing our RNAV coming down for a landing here. When you are approaching this one, sweet speed is between 65 and 70 knots. We are very, very, very light. Let me just show you what I mean by that. Right now, you can see here we're 2376 out of 3,000 pounds. So for those of you who have a calculator handy here, 2376 divided by 3,000. Let me pull that down. We are at 80% of our standard speed. Now, the reason that's important here is if you notice, we stall at about 56. If I do 56 divided by 0.792, that means, actually, I've got that backwards. My apologies. 56 times 0.792. You will notice that our new stall speed is actually 45 knots. And now the reason that's important is that's going to have a big impact on our approach speed. If we're going to be coming in at our standard speed, we're really going to be struggling to get this thing on the ground. So let's go ahead and get ready for our landing here. We're going to go ahead and start slowing down. Propeller full. We're going to back the throttle up. I'm going to go visual. Autopilot is off, and we're going to get ready for our actual approach here. Now, you'll notice when I pull the throttle back on this thing, it slows down fast. Now, you can see we're already inside the safe arc for basically our flaps. That giant propeller blade, because this is a constant speed propeller, is basically working for us to help slow us down. But to give us a kick here, we're going to use a little bit of flaps. For this approach, what I like to do, and whenever you're doing any straight ins, just give it a click, let it settle, give it a click, and just sort of let it settle. Because if you jam it all in at once, it tends to basically stick your nose up. And then, of course, you'd be fighting the trim. All right, you can see that's pulled all the way up. You barely even felt that. In the real plane, you definitely feel it in your hand when you pull that handle back. All right, remember, our new stall speed is 45. So let's see, that's 4 times 3, that's 12, 13, 14, 15. So that would be a 15 plus 45. That would be 49 and 10. That would be a 59 knot approach speed if we're sticking to the standard FAA's method of doing it. So you can see we are way, way too fast for this plane. Start slowing down a little bit. Kind of bring that down quite a bit. There we go. It's about 70 knots. 70 knots would be your typical approach speed with this aircraft. Like I said, we can go a lot slower because we're so light. There we go, about 70. There's your 70 right there. This will give you kind of, not optimum, but it's pretty good. I'm actually going to slow down even further here. Because like I said, we're very, very, very light. You can go down to 66 is what the books will tell you to go to. And you can see we're about 67, so we're actually still too fast. There we go, lift the nose up just a little bit. Again, I'm basically coasting. Yeah, we're coasting. Coming in for a coast. Anybody like some coast? I like raspberry jam on my coast. All right, we're going to go set ourselves up with the flare. Remember, you're just sort of keeping the plane away from the ground as long as possible. Keep the plane away from the ground. Keep the plane away from the ground. Keep the plane away from the ground. Wait for the bink. Nice. That was correct. That was correct. And again, I'm not going to stand on the brakes. Brakes are expensive. Now, did you notice what I was basically saying? The fact that we needed that much extra room, even though our indicated speed was so low. That's something, I, as a pilot, that is my personal growth goal in the real world, is getting better approach speeds. All right, we are safely on the ground. Like I said, you only need a little bit of brakes to kind of slow this thing down. Go ahead and pop off our kind of little pieces here. You want to go ahead and lean your mixture significantly for the ground. Although in flight sim, I think they need to look back into the mixtures. I don't think it quite works that way. We go ahead and pull ourselves clear. We denounce ourselves clear, and everything would be great. So as you can see, this is a neat airplane. They did a really good job on it. It feels kind of good to fly something that I kind of get to fly. Notice I left the window open the whole time with no consequence. In the summer, that's what we do. Sometimes we close the window during takeoff just so we can hear ourselves a little bit better. But like I said, it's just so neat. And like I said, they did a nice job with this. It feels like a heavier Piper. It definitely has that kind of floaty goodness to it. But other than that, enjoy.